Welcome to The Explainer. So, right now, as you're listening to this, there is an absolutely epic, high-stakes battle raging inside you. You can't see it, you can't hear it, but every single second, your body is functioning as this highly fortified, incredibly complex battleground. On one side, you have a relentless barrage of invisible invaders trying to breach the walls, and on the other, a highly sophisticated military defense network fighting to keep you alive and functioning. Today, we're diving into this fascinating world of human health and disease.
You know, we throw the word health around all the time, but I want you to stop and ask yourself, is health simply the absence of disease? For the longest time, humanity thought that, well, if you weren't actively sick in bed, you were perfectly healthy. But as our understanding of biology has evolved, we've realized that's actually a dangerously incomplete picture. Being healthy isn't just about a lack of illness. It's a much more active, comprehensive state of being.
Here's the thing. Health is officially defined as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. It is a total system balance. Our minds actually influence our immune systems directly through our neural and endocrine networks. That's wild, right? So to truly maintain this state of health, we need a balanced diet, personal hygiene, and regular exercise. It's about active maintenance of our bodily fortress, not just patching the walls after they get breached.
Man, it is just amazing how far we've come. Think about early medicine. There was this widespread good humor hypothesis where people literally believed that if you had a hot personality, you had an excess of black bile, and that was the cause of fevers. It took William Harvey, the exact same scientist who discovered blood circulation, using actual experimental methods and a simple thermometer to show that people supposedly suffering from this had perfectly normal body temperatures. He shattered that myth completely, moving us toward a modern mechanical understanding of the human body.
Now, what happens when that total system balance gets thrown off? Well, we face disease. And these threats basically fall into two major camps. First, we have infectious diseases. These are your external invaders, pathogens easily transmitted from person to person, like the common cold, or, much more seriously, AIDS. Then we have non-infectious diseases. These are internal system malfunctions, genetic disorders, or lifestyle-induced issues, with cancer being a major and often fatal example.
Moving into Section 1, the pathogen invasion. Let's meet the invaders.
Okay, you've got to hear this. It's one of the wildest stories in medical history. Enter Mary Mallon, better known as Typhoid Mary. She was a cook by profession, but she also happened to be a carrier for a pathogenic bacterium called Salmonella typhi. This bacteria causes typhoid fever, which brings on high fevers, weakness, and terrible intestinal issues. But Mary herself, she didn't show any symptoms. She invisibly infiltrated households, spreading the bacteria for years simply through the meals she prepared. It perfectly illustrates how easily pathogens can bypass our awareness.
And speaking of invisible infiltrations, let's talk about malaria. This is literally a biological thriller caused by a tiny protozoan called Plasmodium. When an infected female Anopheles mosquito bites you, it injects these infectious forms called sporozoids. These parasites immediately speed to your liver to multiply. Then they burst out and attack your red blood cells. When those cells rupture, they release a toxic substance called hemozoin. And that hemozoin is exactly what causes those recurring, awful chills and high fevers every 3 to 4 days. It's a highly coordinated, multi-stage invasion.
Which brings us to Section 2, our immune system defenses, or basically the body's military.
So we've got two main defense strategies. First up is innate immunity. These are the broad, unspecialized walls and guards of our fortress. It's completely nonspecific, and you've had it from the exact moment you were born. The second branch is acquired immunity. This is your highly trained, targeted assassin squad. It is pathogen-specific, meaning it learns exactly what a specific invader looks like, and most importantly, it remembers them for next time. Let's break down those innate barriers really quick. You've got 4 layers. First, physical barriers, like your skin and the mucus in your respiratory tract that literally trap microbes. Second, physiological barriers. The acid in your stomach and even your tears prevent microbial growth. Next up are cellular barriers. These are special white blood cells, leukocytes, that basically patrol and eat microbes. Finally, cytokine barriers. If a cell gets infected by a virus, it actually secretes proteins called interferons. It's essentially sounding a burglar alarm to protect the surrounding healthy cells.
Now, hidden all over your body are the actual military bases of your immune system, the lymphoid organs. Your primary bases are the bone marrow and the thymus. This is where all your immune cells originate and mature. Once they're trained, they deploy to secondary outposts. We're talking about the spleen, your tonsils, and that vast network of lymph nodes running through your whole body. These nodes act like traps, catching any microorganisms that manage to sneak into our tissue fluids.
But what happens if those innate walls are breached? Well, the acquired immunity kicks in, led by two special types of lymphocytes acting as our heavy hitters. B lymphocytes are like factories. They produce a massive army of proteins called antibodies that float in your blood to neutralize threats. This is called the humoral response. Then you have the T lymphocytes. They don't make antibodies themselves. Instead, they assist the B cells in making them, and they also directly attack infected cells in a cell-mediated response. When these two team up, they memorize pathogens, so the next time that exact bug shows up, the counterattack is absolutely massive and instantaneous.
Unfortunately, sometimes the system breaks down. Let's look at Section 3, System Failures, specifically AIDS and cancer.
So, how exactly does a tiny virus manage to defeat an entire immune system? With AIDS, the HIV retrovirus performs a devastating inside job. First, it sneaks into a type of immune cell called a macrophage. Using an enzyme called reverse transcriptase, it actually forces the cell to turn viral RNA into DNA. The macrophage survives this, but it gets hijacked, becoming an HIV factory that just churns out more and more virus. These new viruses then seek out and destroy helper T lymphocytes, the very commanders needed to coordinate your immune response. By systematically dismantling the T cells, the body just loses its ability to fight off even the most basic, everyday infections.
Then, of course, there's cancer. This is a terrifying system failure, where our own cells basically go rogue and forget how to behave. Normally, cells have this property called contact inhibition, meaning when they bump into other cells, they know to stop growing. Cancer cells lose this property, so they just grow uncontrollably into tumors. Now, benign tumors stay in one place, causing relatively little damage. Malignant tumors, however, are highly aggressive, and their most feared trick is metastasis. That's when cancerous cells literally break off, hitch a ride through the bloodstream, and invade entirely new parts of the body.
And that leads us to Section 4, Self-Sabotage, looking at lifestyle, drugs, and alcohol.
You know, aside from pathogens, there are chemical hijackers that humans voluntarily introduce to their own bodies. Three major ones to note. Opioids act as massive depressants, binding to receptors in your central nervous system to kill pain and act as sedatives, heroin being a heavily abused derivative here. Cannabinoids primarily mess with cardiovascular function and brain receptors, and then coca alkaloids, like cocaine, do the exact opposite of opioids. They are incredibly powerful stimulants that interfere with dopamine transport, causing extreme euphoria, fake energy, and in high doses, severe hallucinations.
And the physiological toll of relying on these substances, it is absolutely devastating. It leads to psychological addiction and a brutal physical withdrawal syndrome if the user stops abruptly. Chronic alcohol and drug use physically destroys the nervous system and leads straight to liver cirrhosis. What's even worse is that the methods of abuse, like sharing intravenous needles, provide a direct, unguarded highway for pathogens right past all of our innate defenses. This vastly increases the risk of contracting serious blood-borne diseases like AIDS and hepatitis B.
So, that really brings us to one final pretty provocative thought. Your body has evolved an incredibly intricate, multi-layered military defense system. I mean, from the stomach acid-dissolving bacteria to memory T cells remembering a virus from 10 years ago, your microscopic defenders fight tirelessly every second of every single day just to keep you alive. So, knowing the monumental effort it takes to maintain our physical, mental, and social balance, why do we so often choose to risk it? It's a powerful question to chew on when we think about how we treat our own bodily fortresses. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.